The church is silent. White flowers line the aisle. Michelle Shaw's photo sits at the front, her smile frozen in time. Mourners cry. Her family collapses into each other. But one man doesn't react. He doesn't wipe his eyes. He doesn't bow his head. He just watches. Cold. Still. Unbothered. Detectives are watching him too, because they already suspect something. And what they discovered next shocked everyone. Michelle Shaw was a young woman with a quiet life. She wasn't famous. She wasn't reckless. She was known for being kind, reliable. She lived in the United States in a community where neighbors noticed when something felt wrong. And the day Michelle disappeared, something felt very wrong. She had routines. Phone calls she always returned. Places she always showed up. Then suddenly, silence. No messages. No answers. No sign of struggle at first. But behind the calm streets, a predator was hiding in plain sight. And he was closer to Michelle than anyone realized. We post real cases like this every day. Subscribe now so you never miss a story. Because this one only gets darker. Before Michelle Shaw became a name whispered in fear, she was simply Michelle. A woman with routines. Habits that made her predictable in the safest way. She woke up early, answered messages, returned calls, showed up when she said she would. People trusted her because she was consistent. And Michelle trusted people for the same reason. She lived a quiet life. No enemies. No reckless behavior. No history that suggested danger was close. Friends described her as warm but cautious. Independent but not isolated. She worked. She planned. She talked about the future. And in the weeks before her death, nothing seemed out of place. At least not at first. Michelle had recently grown closer to someone new. Someone who didn't demand attention. Someone who listened more than he spoke. He didn't raise alarms. Didn't push boundaries. He felt safe. And safety lowers guards faster than force ever could. They spoke often. Met quietly. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would worry her friends. But looking back, investigators would notice subtle changes. Michelle became slightly less responsive. Not distant. Just delayed. Messages returned later than usual. Plans adjusted. Small things. The kind no one questions until it's too late. On the last day anyone heard from Michelle, everything appeared normal. She made arrangements. Mentioned where she was going. She didn't sound afraid. She didn't say goodbye like it was the last time. Her voice carried no urgency. No distress. That night, her phone went silent. At first, it didn't raise concern. People get busy. Phones die. Life happens. But as hours passed, worry settled in. Morning came. Still nothing. Friends tried again. Straight to voicemail. That wasn't like her. By midday, concern turned heavy. Because Michelle didn't disappear without explanation. And somewhere, someone already knew exactly where she was. And exactly why no one would hear from her again. But at that moment, no one suspected the man who would later stand calmly at her funeral. Watching. Waiting. Feeling nothing. And the truth was already closing in. When concern for Michelle Shaw finally reached authorities, it was treated as a missing person case. At first, officers asked the standard questions. When was she last seen? Who was she with? Had she ever disappeared before? Every answer pointed in the same direction. No, never. Michelle didn't vanish. She communicated. She checked in. And the silence surrounding her now felt unnatural. Police visited her residence. Nothing looked disturbed. No broken locks. No overturned furniture. Her belongings were still there. Keys. Personal items untouched. It was as if she had stepped out briefly and never returned. Friends began retracing her final movements. Phone calls. Text messages. The last confirmed contact placed her with someone she trusted. Someone who claimed they parted ways without issue. He said she was fine. Calm. Normal. But something about his tone stood out. Too controlled. Too rehearsed. As hours turned into a full day, the search intensified. Local volunteers joined officers. Flashlights cut through fields and quiet roads. Helicopters scanned from above. Dogs followed scent trails that ended abruptly. And then, the call came in. A location. Remote. So, Michelle Shaw had been found. The scene offered more questions than answers. There were no signs of a struggle. No chaotic evidence. Which told investigators something chilling. Michelle likely didn't fight. She likely didn't run. She likely trusted the person she was with until the very end. News spread quickly. Shock rippled through the community. A woman who had simply stopped responding. was now gone forever. As the investigation began, police shifted focus from where Michelle was found to who was with her last. That person came forward willingly, spoke calmly, offered assistance. He expressed concern, but not grief, not shock, not the confusion investigators expected. And then came the funeral, a room filled with tears, with sobbing family members, with friends barely holding themselves together. Detectives stood quietly at the back, watching, because killers often return to the aftermath. And there he was, standing still, eyes fixed on the casket. No trembling, no emotion, no reaction, just observation. In that moment, something became clear. Michelle Shaw's death wasn't random, and the man watching her funeral without feeling anything was already the center of the investigation. Once Michelle Shaw's death was confirmed, the investigation shifted into high gear. This was no longer about finding her. It was about understanding who took her life. Detectives began where all timelines end. The last person to see her alive. He presented himself calmly. Too calmly. He answered questions without hesitation. Gave details freely. Almost eagerly. He said they spent time together. Said they parted ways peacefully. Said Michelle was fine when he left her. But then, small inconsistencies surfaced. Times didn't align. Locations shifted slightly with each retelling. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to feel wrong. Investigators pulled phone records, text logs, location data. Michelle's phone stopped transmitting abruptly. No gradual battery drain. No final message. Just silence. But then, they noticed something strange. His phone activity didn't match his story. Calls made after he claimed to be asleep. Location pings near areas he said he never visited. When confronted, he explained it away. Technical errors. Poor signal. Coincidences. But then, detectives canvassed the area. Witnesses remembered seeing a vehicle similar to his, parked longer than expected, in places that didn't match his timeline. One witness recalled the car sitting still, engine off, lights dark, as if someone was waiting. But then, forensic teams returned to the scene where Michelle was found. Subtle details stood out. The lack of defensive wounds, the positioning of her body. These details suggested compliance, trust, which narrowed the suspect pool drastically. But then, digital forensics uncovered deleted messages, attempts to erase conversations, searches made late at night, questions no innocent person would ask. Investigators also noted his behavior during interviews. He never asked how Michelle died, never asked if she suffered, never mentioned missing her. Instead, he asked about evidence, about timelines, about what police could prove, which raised a chilling conclusion. He wasn't mourning, he was calculating. But then, pressure changed everything. A second interview, longer, more focused. Detectives confronted him with specifics, exact timestamps, exact locations. The room went quiet. For the first time, his composure slipped. Just briefly. A pause too long. A breath too shallow. A question answered with another question. That was enough. The pieces locked into place. He was arrested, charged with Michelle Shaw's murder. And as the case moved toward court, one image haunted investigators. Not the crime scene, not the evidence, but the funeral. The moment he stood there, watching the grief he caused, without a flicker of emotion. And for detectives, that moment said everything. Because guilt doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes, it looks like nothing at all. The courtroom was silent when the trial began. Michelle Shaw's name echoed through the room. Not as a missing person, not as a mystery, but as a victim. Prosecutors laid out the case carefully, step by step. No theatrics, just facts. They walked the jury through Michelle's final day, her routines, her trust. The moment her phone went silent, then they turned to him. The man who claimed he cared. The man who said nothing was wrong. Digital evidence came first. Phone records, location data, deleted messages recovered and reconstructed. Each piece contradicted his story. Each one tightened the net. Then came the forensic testimony. Experts explained the lack of defensive wounds, what it meant, why Michelle likely didn't resist, why she may not have realized she was in danger until it was too late. The courtroom shifted. Jurors leaned forward. Michelle's family lowered their heads. Witnesses followed. Friends described how Michelle never disappeared, never stopped responding, never vanished without warning. Investigators testified about his interviews, his calmness, his focus on evidence instead of grief. And finally, the funeral was mentioned. The moment that never left detectives' minds. They described how he stood there, watching, observing, showing no reaction as Michelle was laid to rest. The defense tried to introduce doubt. They spoke of coincidence, of misinterpretation, of circumstantial evidence. But the story didn't hold. Too many pieces fit. Too many lies overlapped. When it was his turn to react, he didn't. No tears. No breakdown. No visible remorse. Just the same blank expression. The same emotional void. After deliberation, the jury returned. The verdict was read. Guilty. The word hung in the air. Michelle's family cried. Some held hands. Some closed their eyes. And he did nothing. Sentencing followed. Years behind bars. A life removed from the world he had navigated unnoticed. As he was led away, he never looked back. Michelle Shaw's life could not be restored. No sentence could give her future back. But justice, however incomplete, had been served. Today, her memory lives on through those who loved her, through a community forever changed, and through one chilling lesson. The most dangerous people don't always act dangerous. Sometimes they stand quietly at a funeral, watching the damage they caused, feeling nothing. And that silence may be the loudest confession of all. Criminal psychologists often describe cases like Michelle Shaw's as examples of emotional detachment combined with control-seeking behavior. This type of offender does not act out of rage or chaos. They operate through calm, through patience, through familiarity. The absence of visible emotion is not a lack of feeling in the moment. It is a deeper inability to experience empathy the way most people do. Individuals who commit crimes against people they know often rely on trust as their primary tool. They do not need force at first. They need access. Michelle trusted her killer. That trust created opportunity. Psychologists note that offenders who attend their victim's funeral frequently do so for specific reasons. One reason is reassurance. Being close to the investigation allows them to monitor suspicion. Another is power. Watching grief unfold can reinforce a sense of control. For some, it is also about curiosity, observing how others react to what they did. In Michelle's case, the lack of emotional response stood out more than any outburst ever could. No tears. No visible discomfort. No physical signs of grief. This emotional flatness is often associated with antisocial traits. Not all such individuals are violent. But when violence occurs, remorse is usually absent. Instead, focus shifts to self-preservation, avoiding consequences, controlling the narrative. This explains why the suspect asked about evidence rather than Michelle. Why he calculated timelines instead of expressing loss. To him, the situation was a problem to manage, not a life taken. Psychologists also highlight that emotional detachment can allow offenders to blend seamlessly into normal environments. They do not appear threatening. They appear ordinary, which delays suspicion. Michelle Shaw's case is a stark reminder that danger is not always emotional. It is often cold, quiet, and disturbingly composed. And when someone can stand at a funeral they caused and feel nothing, that absence of emotion becomes the clearest evidence of all. Michelle Shaw was more than a case file. She was a daughter, a friend, a person who trusted someone she believed was safe. Her story doesn't end in a courtroom. It lives in the silence left behind, in the unanswered questions her family still carries, and in the chilling image of a man standing at her funeral, watching, unmoved. This case reminds us that evil doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't shout. It doesn't rage. Sometimes it blends in, smiles politely, listens carefully, and waits. The most dangerous people are often the ones who feel nothing. If this story stayed with you, it should. Because awareness is sometimes the only warning we get. Subscribe now and watch our next case. Another true story. Another hidden truth. Another reminder that not everything is as it seems. And before you go, ask yourself this. If someone close to you showed no emotion at your darkest moment, would you notice? Or would it already be too late?